Hello, and thank you so much for letting me join you today. I have been asked by your great travel advisors about what's hot for next year, and maybe I'm going to throw in a few of my favorite spots as well. So, river cruising is back. We have had half of our fleet already sailing since this summer, and Viking is so thrilled to have so many happy guests who've come back healthy and pleased with the protocols that we put in place and able to explore, which is what you've all missed so much. So I've been asked to present some of my great trips that I am looking forward to doing, things that I'd love to share with you. But I think instead of just telling you about river cruise itineraries, I would love to share cities that I think are the most important things to put on your list, great places to travel to for next year. And of course, 2023 and 2024 sailings are also open with the Viking inventory. One city that you just always have to have on your list is Paris. I remember the first time I saw Paris, I was a little girl, and I was very lucky to say that my 5th birthday was in Paris. So I have fond memories with my family traveling to the Eiffel Tower and seeing this magical city. And it never, ever lets you down. It's magical all these years later to me every time I go back. We have a wonderful product that does Paris and the heart of Normandy, where you go all the way out to the Normandy beaches. But some of the also exciting highlights of that itinerary is Monet's Gardens. So I really recommend it. It's on fire, honestly, for sales next year. We are the closest dock to the Eiffel Tower of any river line. And I think you will just love sitting on the top deck of a Viking longship, looking at the Eiffel Tower on your first night there in Paris. So enjoy it. Put Paris on your list. And while we're talking a little bit about France, we have 2 other itineraries that are wonderful that I think you should look at, and they have exciting cities to explore as well. One is Lyon to Avignon, the Provence itinerary. Wow. I went there right as a season was opening a couple of years ago. I have to tell you, that part of France is so magical. The people are so kind and welcoming. There's so many beautiful farms and just a different local life than the big city of Paris. And of course, the food down in that region. Well, food's great everywhere. And I'm going to talk a lot about food for the time we are together, because I think that's so much a part of the culture and the travel to any of these great areas. But Lyon, of course, is one of the great gourmand spots of all of Europe, where you can't get a bad meal there. And what's nice with a river cruise is you have time to explore these cities. You have time to go try food on your own, go into the towns and sit in a sidewalk cafe and just enjoy life as a local, which is the only way, I think, to wander and to understand and to really have your own adventure in a lot of these places. Of course, there's always a tour included each and every day with Viking that you can get on board with, but you have the option to wander around and explore too. Little of everything is always good. Now, a few years ago, I went on our Bordeaux itinerary. And for those of you who have river cruised before, this is one you should look at. I don't recommend Bordeaux as your first time itinerary, because it's a very short amount of distance that you're really cruising. So this is for those of you who absolutely love wine. And I'm telling you, you're tasting some fantastic vintages every single day, going into some great chateaus. We even have a private chateau we take you to for dinner one night, where our whole staff from the ship comes and cooks dinner in this magnificent chateau. Bordeaux itself is a city you may not have had on your list. It was rated as the #1 city in Europe in 2018. So it is worth a visit all on its own. What a magnificent, not sleepy, but local kind of town, where the markets are amazing and the people want you to try their great and delicious little treats that are in the bakeries. I loved this. Now, one of my favorite shore excursions ever was on this itinerary out of Cadillac. And we went to the Camus Cognac distillery and had the great joy of meeting the master blender. And this is a Viking exclusive. It's our privileged access on one of many on all these itineraries, but on this one in particular, I love to share it. We got to make our own cognac that day. Now, I'm not a big cognac drinker. I don't think I've ever even really been fond of it. But boy, after you go to Camus and you see how they make it and the master blending of it, and then you make your own, it's quite fun. It's quite different and you become a really big fan. So you have all these little vials in front of you and you mix different cognacs together and taste it to see if you like it. Then you take your measurements and you fill up this bigger bottle, and the label will have your recipe on it, if you will, and you sign it as the master blender. And Camus keeps that recipe for a long time in case you ever want to reorder it again. It was one of the most spectacular days and so much fun. We all really bonded together because you had to wait a while for your cognac to come of age, if you will. But all of the special privileged access, local life, and working world programs we have in all these ports are just fascinating for you to experience. All right, so that's my highlights of France. Now we're going to move on to one of my most favorite cities in the world. I've already given you Paris, but I think most people have that on their list. Here's one that I'm always surprised people don't think of going to, and that's Vienna. I absolutely love this city. I could live in Vienna. And again, I'm going to tempt you with some food. The pastries there are like nowhere else. So you go from France and then you go to Austria, and there's a real difference in their style and in their cooking, but boy, it's all fantastic. Vienna is a great coffee city. And I tell you, I have tried so many of the different wonderful bakeries, cafes, pastry shops. Oh, I'm never going to be thin on these trips, but boy, I'm always going to be happy. Vienna just has a vibe that's so special. The architecture is incredible. The gorgeous people that live there. Vienna, I will say, of all my cities that I've been to in Europe, it's probably my favorite. And I'd love to go and spend more time there. Now, on the Danube itinerary, you get your time in Vienna. So make sure you're asking your travel advisor about the romantic Danube or the Danube Waltz, where you get to see Vienna. Now, that itinerary, maybe I'm a favorite to it because it was one of my first, but it is super special because you start in Budapest and you go down the river and you either end in Passau or in Nuremberg. Passau is another favorite of mine. And what I love about it is that it's a pedestrian city in many areas. So you can walk around and visit the local delis, the local sausage stores, the cheese shops. And I love to bring all of that back to the ship and have a picnic on the top deck as you go down the river. And that's what's glorious about river cruising, is you can do that. You can also buy local wines or beers and bring them back on board Viking with no fee, no corkage fee, no taking it away from you. You can go up on the top deck and have your own picnic with some wonderful things that you have found ashore. Passau is one of those. I always find great artwork there because it's a city that has a lot of artist colonies, a lot of art shows. And I have a lot of friends that have traveled with me over the years, and I walk into their home and I remember every piece of art that they bought in Passau in their living room. So make sure you ask your travel advisor about that magnificent trip. Now, let's talk about Cologne. Cologne in Germany is another city on my list of must-sees. You will visit Cologne on our Rhine getaway, on our Rhine river cruise experience. Now, the Rhine, I will say, is the most popular of any river cruise we do. And that's usually because people think of the magnificent Rhine and the castles and the cathedrals along the Rhine. And it's the dream. It's the dream river cruise. And it really is, but the Danube is just as beautiful. Portugal's totally different, but incredible. All of the French itineraries have other scenery, but all great too. There is no bad river cruise. But the Rhine is, of course, the most popular because it's the one that most people know about here. Space gets limited very quickly on all of these great itineraries because, let's face it, these are small ships. So we're doing small ship cruising. You know, there are no more than 190 guests on board. Isn't that wonderful? Very good health protocols and living in a wonderful, beautiful, serene ship as you float down the river for a week or 2 weeks. There's nothing like it. There's something so peaceful about being on those rivers. Now, Cologne has the magnificent dome, the cathedral there, and everything is around that as the town center. I've just spent a lot of time in Cologne. I've enjoyed so many of the local restaurants, the people, and walking around it. It's just a really rich, interesting city. It's a very classic German city, and put it on your list. So I hope that some of the things I've said to you already are cities you may never have thought of. But Viking offers so much in the world, it is hard to get it down to just 5 itineraries. So I'm going to throw in one that you may not have thought of. And now we're going to go over to our ocean program. I always love when you come upon a place that you never thought you were going to be interested in or like. And Buenos Aires is one of those. Wow. I love Buenos Aires. The culture was so different than what I thought it would be. I got to spend a week there once, and so I got to know a little bit of the lay of the land. And the German section, the Italian section, the British section, they're fascinating. And these little neighborhoods, go into the little neighborhoods and get to know what the local bakeries are like there. We do have an itinerary. I'm going to have the map put up right now on our ocean ship, South America and the Chilean fjords. It would be wrong for me not to bring it up to you as some of my favorite places to go, because I will go back to Buenos Aires again and again. I find it just a fascinating place, filled with a vida, and enjoy it. Enjoy it. It's a very romantic, sexy city, I think, and I hope you enjoy it as well. Please talk to your great travel advisors here at CruiseWeb. Have them take a look at what dates, what itineraries you're interested in. We have everything from our river cruises to world cruising on our beautiful ocean ships. We also have expedition ships coming out in 2022 to see Antarctica and the Arctic, as well as some new itineraries local, more close to home than Europe, on the Great Lakes. And those are going to be fantastic. One more domestic product coming out is the long-awaited Viking Mississippi on the Mississippi River. So do talk to your CruiseWeb agents. Make sure they're taking great care of you. And I look forward to welcoming you all on board.